Hi, I'm Shannon Rollins with Shannon Rollins Real Estate. Last week we talked about what does the National Association of Realtors settlement mean. And today we're going to talk about how will that settlement likely impact sellers when it goes into effect in mid-July. We know now that the settlement means that the listing agent and the seller will no longer predetermine the real estate fee that a buyer agent will be paid at closing. When a seller and a listing agent meet, they're going to determine the listing price and the fee that will be paid to the listing agent. But the buy-side fee will not already be predetermined in the contract. Instead, the buyer and the buyer agent are going to have to work out what they're going to be paid, how they're going to be paid, and when they are to be paid. But when a seller is meeting with their listing agent, a smart seller is likely going to still want input to say, how do I need to budget for this? What does it look like? What really do I need to be thinking about? And I always tell sellers when I meet with them, it's all about your bottom line. Don't worry about what's in the middle between the contract price and the net that you're going to get. What the bottom line you're going to get is what's most important, right? So we'll probably still meet with the seller and determine, okay, here's a listing price, here's what the listing fee that's going to be paid, and here is probably the buy-side real estate fee you want to budget for. And the reason why is that in our marketplace, most buyers are getting a loan. Most buyers have to bring a substantial down payment in order to qualify for the loan in order to buy the house. If the buyer now has to also bring the real estate fee as part of their closing costs in order to buy the house, well, they may not be able to afford to buy a house now. So most sellers, which I think will happen, are likely going to still consider paying X towards buyer's closing costs with an acceptable offer. Now, some sellers might say, why don't we just bump that on or add that on to the listing price? Well, the house still has to appraise for the contract price, and you can't add something onto that and the buyer still be able to afford to buy it possibly because it won't appraise now for that new price where you've added on that real estate fee. Another thing you need to consider as a seller, do you really want to be working with an unrepresented buyer? I will say a lot of times buyer agents are weeding out the buyers that really cannot buy ahead of time before they even bring contracts to you. They are determining whether they really can qualify, or there are other factors they maybe are not disclosing to their lender that could impact their ability to buy. And so you're not even seeing a lot of those buyers. But if you now start working with unrepresented buyers, you're going to have buyers that maybe can't qualify. They're under a contract with you. They may have had a pre-approval letter, but they still maybe cannot really qualify. And so you could be under contract for several weeks with your house off the market, about ready to move, and find out all of a sudden they can't qualify and your deal falls through. There's a lot of factors that go into having a buyer agent represent a buyer and help guide a buyer to keep him on track all the way through closing. So I think a smart seller is still going to consider, what is that fee that I really still need to budget for in my process of listing the home that I will be willing to pay with an acceptable contract. Remember, this doesn't go into effect until mid-July, but if you have questions in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to answer them. And don't forget, my team and I are on standby 7 days a week, ready to help you take the smoother road to sold.